Maybe I'll take this piece of candy out of my mouth.
My name is Charles Harrell, and today is December 10th, 2006. I'm here near Cumberland, Maryland, interviewing Mr. Kenneth Wallizer, a World War II veteran. Mr. Wallizer, for the record, can you tell me your full name?
Kenneth R.O. Wallizer.
And what is your current address?
13426 Rocky Gap Road, Northeast, 21502.
Where were you born, Mr. Wallizer?
Cumberland, Maryland.
And when were you born?
3/31/20.
What branch of service were you in?
Air Force.
And were you in the 4th Tactical Air Command Squadron?
I think it was. It's on my discharge.
What is your your highest rank that you achieved?
Corporal.
Did you enlist or were you drafted?
I enlisted.
Do you remember the date that you were enlisted?
No, but it's on there.
Was it August 6, 1941?
Could have been. You have to double check. I don't.
Was that before the war?
Yeah.
And did you get released October 19th, 1945?
Yeah. It was in 45. Whatever my discharge paper says.
Did you only serve in World War II?
Yeah.
On your discharge, it mentions that you were in Normandy,
Yeah.
the Ardennes,
Yeah.
the Rhineland,
Yeah.
Central Europe,
Yeah.
and the air offensive. What was the air offensive?
Well, let's see. That had to do with any resistance you would have from the opposing factions. And defending yourselves as well from any of those. Work both ways.
Were you ever a prisoner of war?
Nope.
Were you ever injured or wounded?
Slightly. I got a little piece of shrapnel and never knew I had from machine gun fire until I come home, and after I come out of service, I went to the doctor and had an x-ray, and he said, "You got metal there." Then I remembered how I got it.
Where were you wounded on your body?
Right about here off to the right side of my navel and a little lower.
Were you flying at the time?
No, on the ground operations. We
Did you get the Purple Heart for that?
No, because I didn't know I had it. I'd skip my hands all up in my belly. Because where we were was in top of a big old factory of some kind, and little rough planks there, and tile roofing. You could just lift up like that and pick them up. And the forward elements had an observation post set up in there where they could look across the river and for anything they wanted to see. And I could put calls out from out there if need be. And all of a sudden, tiles started flying. Well, I knew what that was. Boy, I made a dive, hit the floor. And I skipped my hands all up in those old rough planks, and they had splinters sticking out. And skipped my belly. Everything healed up.
You didn't see a medic or anything?
Nope. Wasn't that bad. I never had to go see a medic while I was in there, come think of it. So anyway, that's all I'd done about it. Never thought any more about it until I found out after I was out a year or two. Had an x-ray and there it was.
Do you recall the date that happened?
Well, it had to be in 45 after come down from Belgium, the Bulge area, and went to southern Germany along the river. I'm not sure what the name of that river was anymore. Could have been the Ruhr. It was a big river.
I'd like to drop back some and talk about growing up as a kid. You were born in 1920. The Depression doesn't start till 1929 for
Well, actually,
you.
it started earlier than that. It didn't seem to affect this much. My dad was one who could always find a way to have something to eat and pay his bills. And then he had a lot of friends. One banker in particular said, if you can't make it, don't worry about it.
What was your dad's name?
Grant McKinley, Wallizer.
What was his job?
Well, let's see, when he married, he worked for the Beating Railroad. He quit that job because he could have lost his life one day. And,
What do you mean by that?
well, he was a brakeman, those old trains they had back then with cabooses on the back. They had to get up on top of them buggers to tighten the brakes, loosen brakes and all that, you know. There's always 4 or 5 guys in the caboose. And one day you get up and there's a little snow on it, a little slippery like that. All of a sudden, those trains are going like that, more so sometimes than others. And it caused him to slip. He would have went over the side and he went like that, and he managed to grab the walkway up the top, which is made of boards about that wide. His finger caught there. That kept from going off. And he said right then and there, he made up his mind, when he gets off of this one, it's the last one. And it was.
Was that before you came along?
Oh, yeah. He married in 1918. And I have a brother ahead of me,
What's his name?
Andrew. He was in the service. I got his picture. Oh, and then I have another brother behind me. He was all in the service. And I was the only one volunteer.
So there were 3 brothers in the family?
Yeah.
No sisters?
No sister.
Who about your mother? What was her name?
Susanna Marie Bennett was her maiden name.
Did she work outside the home?
She worked until after she married at the old Fuller Dye Works. Was one of the biggest, I think, in the country at that time. She worked there until after his marriage, a short time after that, though. Might have been a year. She quit her job and they started her family. So,
Was your dad in the First War?
no, he was working for the railroad. Or he could have been. But he wouldn't have been very, he'd had to go in pretty young if he had been in. Of course, I had some uncles, some of his brothers was in it. And they all come out of it okay, except one. I never knew it for a long time, but he got a bad disease over there, syphilis, in fact. He ended up in a mental institution. I can remember him.
What was his name?
Phil.
Did he talk about the war any?
No, I just can't remember him. And I remember going out there with my dad, he'd see him, but to then he seemed kind of distant and not like I expected to see, you know. But it was getting to his brain. So he didn't live too long after that. And just see, Jess, Phil, Dad. And then there was an Uncle Jess. He was over there for a while, but he got back okay.
You said that a banker kept your dad and helped out.
The banker. He was a good friend of Dad's and vice versa back then.
What was the banker's name? You recall?
Afraid not.
But he seemed to always be there when your dad needed
Yeah.
whatever he needed.
He said, well, they can hunt together and they had a lot in common. And Dad was a real likable fella. He was the type of guy when wherever he was many people around, they all liked to gather around him. Because he always had a tale to tell, or if he had a joke to tell, he could match it, you know. And that's just the way he was. And he was a nice-sized man, and very friendly.
After the railroad, what did your dad work at?
Let's see. think his next job he took, yeah, with the local streetcar. Back then we had streetcars come, electric operated. And he went to work with those. And he was the conductor on those, but she was patients, yeah. Customers got in and out, behaved themselves and all that kind of stuff. They'd go to all their stops, drop them off, pick them up. So. And he worked there quite a few years. Where I was born was just about a block from where he operated out of, so it came in real handy.
Is that house where you were born still there?
Yeah.
What street is that on?
That's on Mechanic Street. I can't think of the number. It's on Mechanic Street, North Mechanic.
How long did you live there before you moved?
Well, the flood run us out in, I think it was 33 or 34.
So you grew up in town?
Well, not right there. But at that time, we had no wall protection of Wills Creek coming down through the big ravine up there in the mountain, which they call Narrows. And the water get high, it just go all over town. That time, it didn't have any protection like that, and the water come up, and I can remember Dad and Mother stacking stuff, taking it upstairs, and what I could call, I would. And my old brother, the youngest boy, hadn't showed up yet, and so we had to leave there. I think we went up with my mother's parents. They lived up on top of the mountain until the water receded. They cleaned the place up, and Dad said then, "We're moving. It's going to happen again." So he bought 2 big lots on this end of town, on what they call Lincoln Street. And there wasn't too many houses along there then. It was a dirt street between 2 main streets, you might say, one going in, one coming out. And he built a nice little bungalow in the back, and we moved in there. And then school was only 3 or 4 blocks away, elementary. And
Do you recall any of your elementary teachers?
definitely one. Oh, Struckman, Hannah Bill. Or Hannah, yeah. And I always called her Hannah Bill. Hannah Bill. And she had long stem fingernails, and she could get mean, And I was never much to take any of that kind of stuff because I wasn't brought up that way. My dad was the power behind everything that went on at home, but Mother had to say, so to speak, well, you better listen to your mother. Don't make a mistake. No, because he'd come up with more tricks to make you wish you hadn't. Something for Don. Anyway, as time went on, he built a nice big home out front. And there was, counting the attic, it was 3 stories, not counting the basement. Mother called it her dream home. It was a nice house. So we moved into it. Rented the one out in the back. Later those people moved out and he built a top on it. So I made that a 2-story house. Then he had one end of it, he had a garage big enough to put 1 vehicle in. And which I'm glad he did, it came in handy. So anyway, then those Depression years, they began to come on. Money got a little tighter. And
Did you ever go hungry?
no, never did. And we had lots of ways to get plenty to eat. By growing a lot of it ourselves,
You had gardens.
Yeah. And well, we had a lot of relatives. My grandparents had big farms. And so anyway, you rented, after you got top on the back, things began to tighten up economically. We moved back there, He rented a house out front. Some old lady, I can't, Matthews was her name. And she was a well-to-do old lady, and she lived there by herself. And then those years, like I previously mentioned, and they began to shut down streetcars, take them out of commission, do away with them actually. So he got a job just a couple of blocks out of that time as Blue Ribbon Bakery. No, I'll get the him story. He got in touch with a fella he knew in some bakery up there, I think from up around Altoona, Pennsylvania. They'd bring the bread, the cakes, all those products in, you know. And Dad took his old Buick, it was an old 25 Buick touring sedan, cut her off, built the top, put it on the back. That's what he operated out of. He'd get that bread in, customers all over, stores he'd go to, you know. And he was making a little money on it. And then, he no longer had a vehicle to put in that garage, so I just made a little neighborhood store out of it. To this day, people still owe him money. He's dead and gone. And so then, let's see, after that.
Did you help him with this store at any time?
Oh yeah, but my niece, she moved in. She was a nice person, friendly, and we had plenty of room. Give her a room upstairs, and you might say she operated the store, you know. And they had a nice little business. A lot of people come in and out there from the neighborhood and get ice cream cone, this, that, you know, anything they wanted. And once in a while, I was old enough then I could go in there and wait on a customer and help. Dolly was her name. And so everything fit together real well. Then, railroad, streetcars was going, and Dad had a chance, and then they began to come up with more bigger stores. That knocked the heck out of a lot of these neighborhood stores. So a couple blocks away was the Blue Ribbon Bakery, and it was a big bakery. He knew quite a few people in there. Went down and talked to them a little bit and got a job. Delivery. They give him truck stuff to do. He'd make his daily rounds, give him a payday. You know.
Did you all have power in town? Electricity?
Electrical? Oh yeah, definitely.
How about plumbing inside?
Oh yes. Oh yes. Yeah, I had that inside, water, everything you got today. Electrical and water.
How about radio?
Radio. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, we had radios.
What was your favorite show to listen to on the radio?
I don't think they used to have, as a kid, I can't recall having any favorite on. Amos and Andy, I think, was one I used to listen to. But I was great for the outdoors. You know, I didn't like to spend much time in the house. I always wanted to be out someplace, roaming the hills, going fishing, had an old bicycle, or going swimming, or swinging through trees like a baboon.
Did you camp much?
Never had to camp much because I didn't have far to go to the woods, but I have camped, yeah. And I knew there were lots of nice places to go. There was good swimming, hunting, and you name it, fishing.
Did you have a favorite friend that you used to go with a lot?
Yeah, a couple of them. They lived nearby, went to school together. The one old guy, I think his got his picture might be in there. Giggs Lease. Giggle, I call him. Yeah. His first name was Charles Lease. And the other one, his name was Cubby. His first name was Charles. I always called him Charlie. You know. Yeah, we bummed around a lot together. And neither one of them ever went to service. Charlie got on the police force, I remember that. And so anyway, everything went pretty good that way. Dad was working, we had plenty to eat.
You mentioned your grandparents. Were you close to your
Very
grandparents?
much so.
Which ones?
Both.
Can you tell me about your dad's parents and what their names were?
Yes, I can. Now, my granddaddy, Wallizer, my dad's father, he was born up in the New England states. And he had to do with logging. And they would get these big log rafts chained together, tied together, and they'd float them down the Susquehanna. A lot of times he'd ride down with them on them, you know. And they had to take a train or horse wagon or something and get back. And as years went by, he decided he'd get out of there and he'd come down here, and he settled out here in the Green Ridge, which is all state land now. And I know just where he moved down in, built a home, and set up a sawmill. And he cut timber. They dragged it there with a team of horses. Then he met this girl whose home was right up on the hill, mountain you might say, near where he was. Her name was Amanda Morgan. And before it was over, they married. And they moved in down there where Granddad had settled in. And he had a barn out there, and pig pens, and chicken houses, and everything else. So they had plenty there to do and to eat. And the family kept coming on. He had 4 sons and 3 daughters. And she was a robust woman and real pleasant and nice looking woman. But boy, she could put the muscle to you, even when she got up years.
Now, he would not be old enough to fight in the Civil War, would he?
Well, I'll get to that. But anyway, he wasn't in the Civil War. So that pretty well takes care of him and had his family and them leaving home and so on and so forth. But now my mother's granddaddy, he was a farmer as well. And he was about around Orleans, Pennsylvania, which is northeast of here. And his wife, her name was Cindy Smith. And his name was Abraham Bennett. And her daddy was in the Civil War. And I can remember him, but I can remember her mother. I wasn't very old. But one reason I can remember him so well is when I'd go up to my granddad's and they would happen to be there. That great-granddad had a cane, had a hook on the end like that, you know, a handle. And if you got too close, he'd grab around the neck of that cane. Then you'd try to get off of it, he'd just keep it laughing and pulling you into him. Then he'd pet you on the head or squeeze you a little bit. And I'd be a fighting to get loose. And then one time I had a little toy of some kind, a string on it, and I come out of the kitchen around the corner, and Grandma, my great-grandma, she's sitting there in a rocking chair, and she rocked it, went under the rocker, mashed it. Oh, she felt so bad about that, and I probably cried a little bit. And she tried to shape it up and fix it up. Yeah, I can remember him, and his name's on up at the battlefield up there in Pennsylvania.
Gettysburg.
Gettysburg, yeah.
And what was his name again?
Yeah, what the heck was his first name? My granddad's was Abraham, but he was a Smith, John.
John Smith?
Yeah, I don't know what his middle initial was. Or is. Probably someplace I could find out. But anyway, and he had a white beard, he had plenty of hair. And he just wore that beard under here. He didn't have anything to wear up. But he was a good sized man even back then, and he was well up into his 90s. Well, all my grandparents was well into the 90s when they died.
Did John Smith talk about the Civil War and all
No,
too?
back then, if he did, I was too little to mean anything to me, you know.
As you were growing up, were you good in school?
Oh, I guess I was average. I could get bad, but normally I knew not to. However, one time, that one teacher asked about with them long fingernails. She had a habit of taking by the shirt to get her point across or try to correct you or force you to me. It was force me to do something. Or sometimes she gets it by the ear. One day she took me by the ear. I couldn't figure out why, because I was sitting at my desk doing what I thought she'd do, I guess. She took by the ear and it didn't feel very good. She must have got daggone nail stuck. Man, I went like that and I took her hand off. I was about the 4th grade. Well, she turned around and got the yardstick laying there on the middle of the chalkboard, you know. Well, I seen what was going to happen. So she turned around, got that, started to turn around. I come out of that desk and she had it up in the air. Well, I took it away from her. I broke it right in half. And I just went like that to her and went back, got my cap and coat. And I headed out. I went home. Dad was home. Told him what. He said, "Get your hat on, boy. We're going to take a walk." So we went up to school. He went out and he squared off in front of her and he read her pedigree as to how and what he expected of her and not what. And I remember him saying, "Don't you ever lay a hand on that boy again." I remember him saying that just as clear as it's right now. She never did. But she was a mean little bitch. Well, they had him back then, seemed like. And they had a principal, her name was Downey. She was a big woman, but a nice woman. She can handle herself. But other than that, never had much trouble.
Were you good at any particular subject?
Oh, one thing I really did like, and I should have pursued it, I guess, was art. I think I had a natural gift for that. And such things as building, incidentally. Built this, built the boys, all the kids, they all got nice homes. And put the best kind of wood in the walls overhead, and then the joist, and double secured the roof in case of high winds or heavy weights, stuff, you know.
If you had to characterize your personality in school, not just elementary school, but middle and high school, what would it be?
You're not, you know what saying, asking for. Good, bad, or medium, or something like that, are you?
Were you shy or were you
Well,
outgoing?
I had plenty of friends. It seemed like a lot of them would just naturally get around me, especially girls, for some damn reason. You know. Of course, back then I began to know why, but I was always particular about friends, a lot of things like that, you know. A little cautious, but as far as having friends and along okay. I never got into sports too much, but I could always run well and fight and wrestle. And it seemed like I never get tired, and especially when it come to running, I was always heavy-chested. Had extra lungs, as the doctor said. And had a lot of endurance. But I liked anything that had to do with maybe running, you know. As far as basketball, my older brother liked basketball. To me, it seemed too easy. Take that ball out there and run around after one, knock the guy off and throw it to the baskets, you know. I couldn't get any thrill out of it. And about the same with football even today. To me, those guys are doing what they like to do, but they aren't necessary as far as I'm concerned. Old guys that gives their lives defending their so-called country, a hell of a lot more necessary than those guys. But,
Was there any time in school that you had a confrontation with another student where you end up fighting?
let me see. Yeah. One time. It happened in grammar school. And I think it was last year in grammar, 6th grade. And he had a kid there by the name of Allen was his last name. I'm pretty sure that's what it was. Well, he would like to have been something he wasn't, man-wise, so to speak. But he had this buddy of his. I don't think he started up there in 1st grade and he came in. Well, Alan, he'd just hunting around him, and this other kid, he would back him up and, you know, try to spare somebody and bull him away. And so anyway, I don't know why he did what he did. And I was sitting at my desk, and all of a sudden, bam! Like that, and then he walked by and he's a grin. I started to get up and I did, and I said, I'll catch back with you. So, recess come along. Well, we were out, 6th grade was top floor in the back, and the head steps went up and down back to school. When I got down there, I was waiting for him. And I went over to him, and that bully of his, he come up there, you know, hey, I'll take care of you. I knew what to do. I just hauled off and I plastered out in one, he went to stagger. That bully of his, that he was going to take me on. And I just whirled around, and I said, come on. My dad taught us how to box and wrestle and fight and carry on. And as years come on, me and the kids and growing up and brothers to wrestle with. And then I done some in high school. And then, well, about my latter years and before I went to service, I used to get out here to YMCA. I'd spar around with the best boxers they had in this area. And the guy's name was Shroud. And it was hard for me to remember a lot of things. There was 2 or 3 others. One time, they got after me a few times, wanted to become a pro. I looked over there, that old boy was sitting over there, and his nose was crooked. And he was cauliflower, and I said, I don't want to look like that. So that's as far as it took him, but it sure came in handy a lot of times. I never went looking for a fight. But I always had a nice looking girlfriend. Sometimes they had fights started with that, I think. In fact, I know one of them definitely did, and I had to beat 5 SOBs because of that. Right back over the mountain there in Beams Cove. Had a little write-up in the paper about that. And I got some pictures too. I got a black eye, but that happened after the fight was over. And I left my gal to drive my old convertible down the road, and so they had a couple carloads of them. They got their car, coughed, and one pulled in front of her, and another pulled beside, and they forced off the road. That's what got black eye. When I rolled the window down, it was dark. Some buggers put one through the, when I rolled the window down, hit me over the eye. This I think it was. Anyway, kind of knocked me back a little bit, and I tried to get the door open, and it wouldn't come up very easy. I straightened out, must hit the handle right, it opened. Then I couldn't find any of them. About that time I seen him leaving the car. But I knew what to do about it. I knew a guy, he was in inspector with the state police at that time, I think it was. So it's happened out of town. Called him, told him what happened. He said, "You know where they're at? Know their names?" I said, "I can give you most of them." He said, "I'll call you." Next time I heard from him, he said, "Come up to the courthouse." They had the jail up there behind it. So he said, "Come on, take a look." Down there, and there he had him a couple different cells. He said, "See anybody in there?" I said, "Yeah, that's one. That's another one." We'll do it anyway. I put the finger on all of them. Okay, so then we had a little hearing. The old judge put a lot of questions and stuff to him, and told him how it happened, and I didn't start it. He started. He tried to sucker punch me when they stepped out the door. Bill Bance was his name. He was a pretty big guy, but boy, I knocked the hell out of him when he got her right there, that first blow. And that's a bad place to hit a guy when he's not all puckered up. Yeah, but the next one, no, it rolled him enough, and the other one, no, it cold cocked him.
How far did you go in school?
12.
Did you graduate?
Yeah, I could paper someplace for it. I think it's all on there too. So anyway, last year or two wasn't too easy. But all my brother's done it. So.
Did you travel much as a kid?
Well, not a whole lot back then. Didn't really have that many places to travel because all my parents lived nearby, or their parents, you know. But I liked to spend, when I was in school, just a kid. I always liked to go to my granddad, Wallizer, because there was a nice creek that flowed down to his property and plenty of fish in it. Good swimming hole. Of course, plenty of work to do. I learned how to plow with that old horse and a single plow. And run the cows in, milk cows, and help in the garden. My grandma always had a nice little garden right outside the kitchen door. I enjoyed growing up there, and there was good hunting. Didn't have far to go, just all around. So I had a good life there. And I got shot out there.
You got shot?
Yeah.
What happened?
Well, this was not long after I came back from the service.
So it was after the war.
Maybe off the man. I was at my granddad's. I went out there to go hunting. I knew where all the good hunting was around there. And there was one place in particular I liked to go. It had the biggest hickory nut tree on it I ever did see. If it's still standing, I don't know, but it was really big. I've got somewhere in a place not like that. Now I go back in there and hunt. This day, I was up early, and I had 2 squirrels, if I recall. And I had a sandwich in my pocket. So I put it down, sit down on an old log, it began to rot up a little. It was getting around noon. The squirrels don't move much in warm weather, and that time of day, a lot of times they lay out on a limb up there close to where their nest is, or sometimes they crawl in the nest and stick their head out a little bit. So I ate that sandwich, and I began to feel sleepy. Thought, well, I got plenty of time. I just slid off there and stretched out along that log. I began to doze off and didn't have my cap down far enough, I guess. It was too much light. So I went like that to pull my cap bill down. And I must have been somewhat subconscious. I thought I could feel something and heard something. And I went to take the cap off and nothing happened. So I went like that. When I did, I had 4 or 5 blood spots on that hand. Then I began to feel a little stinging. And then I knew what happened. So I had the old 20 gauge double barrel laying there, and I just Well, we got it, slid it up over the log, come up out there, one-handed, and looked out over there, see if I could see him, because I intended to give him a little shot. If I'd have seen him, or I'd have shot right at him. I didn't, so I slowly stood up. I thought I heard a, maybe like a little dead stick or something snap, and it probably was him. And he took off anyway. Never got a chance. But he heard me, because I called him the things I wouldn't like to call. So anyway, I took my hot coat off. I could begin to tell there was some damage there. My hand wouldn't just hung like that. I could do that. So I had about 18, 19 miles drive home. And it was beginning to feel pretty uncomfortable. And I found out why, because you ever hit your crazy bone, as they call it? I had a shot. Hit that baby. And I still got about 48 hunks of lead in there. And maybe 2 or 3 in here. You can feel them there, my elbows on. So anyway, I down and grabbed Malls. My aunt was there, and she'd come out and said, "Gotta go." I said, "What's your hurry?" I said, "Oh, something happened, I gotta go." Never told her. I said, "Here's a couple squirrels for you." I got about halfway home up Martin's Mountain, and Bill McCuckey, his daddy, had a big farm there, a dairy farm. He was in there. They sold ice cream and food and different stuff. And I pulled up the door and hit the horn. He come to the door. And he said, "Hi, Wally." He said, "You got a few minutes you can spare?" He said, "Yeah, what do you need?" He come over to the car, and I told him what happened. He just threw his apron off, come around and got the car. Drove me to town, took me up to the hospital. And to this day, I'm not sure how he got back, but I know he did. So anyway, I saw him after that, and I didn't really, really appreciate doing it. I was afraid it's possible I could have passed out, you know. Never have so far in life. So anyway.
Did your family talk about politics during the 1930s at all?
Very little they talk about politics, as I recall it. My old granddaddy, Wallizer now, he'd like to talk about it. And he'd cuss some of those buggers. Yeah, he'd like to talk politics for what he knew about it, you know.
As the Great Depression got worse and worse, did you ever consider getting any type of government assistance?
No.
Or going to work for the government?
No.
Did you ever see any CCC workers or WPA workers?
Yeah, I can well remember when that CCC thing started. Back in here in the Green Ridge and Town Hill section. And my own great-granddad is buried there. And my great-great is buried back in there on the mountain hilltop. The reason for that, at one time there was quite a few homes, you might say, scattered down through there. People living there and working for Mertens, who was clearing the land and going to make that orchard, and more orchard. I don't think you can find any one of them trees standing now, but for a long time, as the woods grew up again, you could. And I thought then, when that CCC bit come in, that's going to change all of that. I was right. They started cutting roads all over the daggone place. Then those jerks from down around, maybe Baltimore or something, you know, never knew how to hunt. They might borrow a gun or go get a gun and decide to go hunting. Well, it's the best thing hadn't been in the woods. But before we used to get our gang, we could go out, we'd put our standers out in deer season. And then we'd get the drivers. They'd spread out and they'd walk through the woods. And generally it didn't make much noise, just walk. The deer will hear you, spot you, smell you. And then they'd stay ahead of you, and then they run out to the standers, you know, and he's ready for it. But after that CCC and all the jerks from down around Washington, Baltimore and stuff started coming up here, wasn't hardly safe to go in the woods. You try to set up something like that, and you start driving through, and there'd be 4 or 5 of those guys sitting out there on their duff in the woods, waiting for somebody to run out of deer. So I didn't think much of that CC's it. And a lot of this environmentalist stuff I don't go along with either.
You graduated high school in the late 1930s. Did you all ever discuss the international situation with Hitler coming to power in Germany and
Yeah,
the Japs?
I remember talking about that. And I didn't like what I heard, but he was smooth. But he was a nut. But the way he got into there, he started to do all these nice things for the German populace, you know. Making all these super highways. Even today, you can drive on a super highway over there as fast as you want them, you know. And putting up nice buildings here and there, and all kinds of things. He worked his way in real well, and then began to get these so-called followers. And first thing you know, he had Secret Service, he had SSS, and all kinds of spatial other characters. It wasn't long, you don't say nothing wrong about Hitler, you disappear.
In Germany.
Yeah.
How about around here? Did they talk about him and how he was terrorizing the Jewish population and non-German population?
I remember hearing about that, yeah, and things going on like that. That was long before television. I didn't like that. Like, that's not right for anybody, the other people. Well, it just wasn't all Jews, too. There was quite a lot of Polacks, and anybody else that got out of line. He could be German as far as that goes, you know, but toe the mark, do it Hitler's way.
Did you know any Jewish people here in Cumberland?
I probably did at that time, yeah, but not too many. Most of those were people, Jewish people in business of some kind. Might be furniture store, or, you know.
How about black people? Did they have their own neighborhood in Cumberland?
Yeah, back then, I can remember as a boy, a young fella, going to the theater. We'll take one as an example, which was what they called the Maryland Theater. In its time, it was exceptionally nice and big theater. It had tile floor. You walked in that big opening doors down there. Gradually walk up about halfway up there. You get your ticket, then you go on up. And it had about 3 openings, big doors there. You step in on the first level, and then nice rails around it, and then it tapered down like that. Then all the seats were in there, and then they had a big organ over there and a piano. Lots of time they'd have somebody on the organ playing music before the show started, or the piano. Then there was two tiers above that, and the last one up, that was for Negroes only. And they'd come in the back door. That's where they get their ticket. And then they had this incline to go up, to get up to there. Of course, you could go up the incline and get off on the second floor, you know, for white people. They had to go on up to the top, which shouldn't have been, but that's the way it was. And the same way at the old Strand Theater. Well, they're all going now. One time you had 5 or 6 theaters scattered around downtown, nice theaters. Television come in, supermarkets and malls.
Was there much racial violence in Cumberland
No,
when you were growing up?
No, I can't recall ever having any of that as a kid growing up. And not far from where I really grew up, into my teens, was a place down on Frederick Street. Was only about 3 blocks or maybe a little more where I lived. But you could walk up and down through there and never have any trouble. And I got to know one of those boys because as a kid we'd sled ride on the streets from up here downhill, clear down to Frederick Street and across the Frederick Street. They had playroom over there to go and keep from running into anything. a lot of times when the city police, they'd have a cop out there to stop any traffic might be coming up. And
Come on in.
there's my son Gary. And I got to know this colored fella, and we just hit it off real well. Might say we become good buddies.
What was his name? Do you recall?
You know, what was it?
Got the osteo stuff up there, just hasn't had.
Seldom I think of.
Yeah, well.
What did you do with him?
Go on.
Well, we went up right behind where the colored section was, a nice big hill up there, and the Ku Klux Klan used to hold rallies up there. I can remember going up there as a kid. They'd have their white outfits on, you know, and the fire going and the cross up, and they'd light it off. And I remember one time, I said, ask him, he said, I said, I want to go watch these Klux. He said, I'm afraid. I said, we'll get up there, they wouldn't even know we're there. He followed me. And we took a good old time getting up, sneaking out there and laying on our bellies and looking out to watch what was going on, you know. Things like that. Then wintertime we'd sled ride together. Seemed like he knew when I'd be out there in my old sled. He'd come up there a lot of times and say, well, barrel on, follow them back. Away we go. But I never had any trouble with it. I did get in a fight down there one time though. These years went by and it was, I think it was, I must have been about 19. Might be going into 20s. I was dressed pretty nice. I'd been downtown and come up through there. And there was 4 or 5 on the other side of the street. One of them hollered something. It was directed at me. I can't remember the exact words. And I threw something back at them. Then they started across the street. Well, the other thing I could do was, the cop lived there, but he was on duty. They had a big garden there and a hedgerow fence along the front. So I just backed up there to that fence. They come over there. And one, he got his jib too close. So I plastered him. I had to hit him 2 or 3 times. The others didn't jump on him. About that time, this colored friend of mine, he come running down there and he told them to back off like that. He didn't start it, they started this and that. And the last time he hit that colored kid, he went back through the, well, it wasn't just a kid anymore, he went back through the hedge. So he walked me halfway home, we just walked and talked. That's the only problem I ever had with him.
Tell me, what was your first job? Real live work out of the home type of job you had?
Well, let's see. First job I had after going out of school, I went to what they call the Celanese Corporation, which at that time was a big corporation. And they made all this Celanese fabric and stuff, you know, which plastics coming in and these various other kinds running out of business. And I quit that job one night. I had night shift and I was too young, 19 years old.
You were graduated by that time?
And I went to work one night. Thought, I got enough of this. So the foreman, he come around to me and said, I'm going to quit. I said, oh, you can't do that. He said, I can't let you go. I said, oh, yes, you will. So I just walked down the road there and broke all the strands on them rolls they rolled up. Said, you let me go now, won't you? It's down the office. So I'm glad it did. And then when I left there, I went to work for Tommy Edison at the power station.
What was your job at the power station?
Well, you might say it mainly come under the heading of maintenance, and then there was some equipment we had to keep balanced and checked out. It wasn't a bad job. As it was, but it's no longer there.
You graduated in 1938?
Yeah.
Is that when you graduated high school?
Yeah.
What did you want to be when you graduated high school? Had you thought about college or?
Hell, couldn't afford college back then, and nowadays this thing is how question need to know all my grandkids are going. Well, let's see, I don't know. I can't really say it was academic, but I can't really say I have my sights on anything in particular. If it would have been, it's probably had to do with contracting or something or other.
Building stuff?
Yeah, I always liked that kind of work. Other than that, it just worked out the way it is. So anyway, I come back from service, and because of the experience I had at Atomic Edison, I went to the local union, International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, and my dad, he was a member in there. And finally I got things raised, and they accepted me, took me in. I had an apprenticeship of 3 years. Each 6 months you get a pay raise. And top out to get top rate. I'm glad I went. So I learned quite a bit. Now it's 5 years of apprenticeship because of technology. You know, it's like going to college even more down there. But also they had so many working hours each day too.
But before the war, you were working for the power company.
Yeah.
What made you decide it was time to enlist? We were not at war.
Well, I knew I would be drafted because there was nothing wrong with me. And the draft was the thing, you know. And I thought,
Was your number called for the pre-war draft?
no. But I knew it would be, and very soon. And I knew when you're drafted, you don't have nothing to say about where they're going to put you. You know, by enlisting, you do. So, well, it's just a matter of time they're going to call me, and I'm liable in. So it's hard to tell where.
What did your parents think about you enlisting?
They didn't say one way or another.
Were you still at home at the time?
Yeah. Yeah, they didn't say one way or another. They might have said something like, if you think that's what you should do, son, you do it. I know my dad and I, he would have approved of it, definitely. Of course, mothers hate to see their kids go off to war, you know. She was a loving mother. But it all worked out okay, so.
So you enlisted where? Where did you go?
I enlisted here in Cumberland. Then after that, they sent me to Washington, D.C. I was sworn in there as what they call the President's Guard.
The President's Guard?
Yeah.
What was that?
I know someplace in Washington, D.C.
What were you had wanted to be in the Air Force?
Yeah, that's what I signed up for, but that's where I was sworn in down there. Took the oath, so to speak.
Had you ever been that far away from home before?
Not as far as York, no.
Where did they send you for training?
We went from there to Jefferson Barracks, Missouri. That's where we took our basic.
How was basic for you? Basic training?
Yeah, I didn't mind it. I could do everything they put there before me. And not much more to say about it, just done it.
What type of weapons did they train you with?
Oh, let's see. Some of their Army rifles they had then, and before it was all over though, I had, time I went over there, I had a carbine, I had a 45 on my hip, and I had a special knife I carried on my other hip. I got it all over there. So I had, then I always had a Jeep and the radio equipment there. And I always had a guy with me, a buddy. One in particular's with me most of the time.
Did you go to a special school for radio operation?
Yes, when we finished basic training, they shipped me up to Chinook Field, Illinois, which was an air base. And there is where you take your radio training, mechanical training, most anything that had to do with airplanes. See?
Is that what you wanted to be as radio operator, or did you want to be a pilot?
I thought about a pilot, but now I'm glad it wasn't. Because heck, you didn't have any trouble becoming a pilot back then, unlike it is today. You know. If they needed him, you wanted to be one. If you could fly that baby, bring her in, bring her out. Of course, I flew enough that I could even take over the controls, you know. But we'll get to that. Anyway, that's where I learned that. Then we left there, went to Virginia, Langley.
Langley?
Is it still there?
Yes.
And there was assigned to some flying outfit. It was, I guess you might say, tactical, and had a lot of trainers, AT something or another. And so I got operate out of a plane with radio, and lots of times had pilot would say, take over, and
I'm going to need to stop there for a moment. My tape is running out.
we'd take straw. Sometimes we'd roll up a big leaf or something and roll up some dry stuff in it and roll it and tight like that off, and boy, some of that was, whew, didn't want any more a puff or two. Then we'd take straws. The straws were different back then. And we'd put coffee in them. Squeeze the end shut. Light it off. Might have a long cigarette or cut it in half or something to light it off. Well, the first drag or two on that coffee tastes good. But keep one going, boy, you get strong. Don't away with that. Of course, back then you could go to the store, you'd be 10 years old, see. Want a pack of cigarettes? Get a pack of cigarettes. Of course, it cost a dime or 15 cents or something. Now it's $2 or $3.
We were talking about you being in Langley Field.
Yeah.
What was your job at Langley Field? What were you doing?
Yeah, let me think. Well, I guess mainly I was a radio operator, and I was called out practically every day, you might say, for a flight. Sometimes not so. Maybe be a week or so. It'd be up 2 or 3 times. But they had all these training missions for these pilots, you know. And those little ATs were pretty agile.
Can you remember the first time you went up in an airplane?
Yeah. Didn't bother me a bit. We had flying outfits that were leather, sheepskin lined. I wish I had it now, or the top, it was all nice brown leather, nice fur collar. Pull your cap down over, and then you had your goggles. Of course, you close yourself in on those trainers, but there was times when you opened it, had to have your goggles. And a lot of times you got up there and then we start through maneuvers of all kinds. When they first start, I think there's all trying to do the same thing because they had a leader out there and a way of contacting them. And time would come whenever myself would contact another plane, and that operator there would reply. And sometimes as it went on, then we got ground operations back and forth. And that was my job mainly. had to do with radio and contacting. And of course, I had right along in all those maneuvers. And after a while, why, they'd get pretty good, you know, it'd be like dog fights, one or another, trying to outdo him, get over above him, or the right position to get the right shot on him, you know.
And you were in the airplane at the time?
Yeah, yeah.
How many people were in these airplanes that you were flying? Two?
Yeah.
You and the pilot?
Oh, yeah. And a lot of times, the OS was over, and then they just dip the wings, peel off, go do where they were supposed to go. And one time we was way down over Virginia and into the Carolinas, and you could see Florida, the upper end of Florida. And sometimes we'd fly fairly high, and sometimes get down, you might say, and hedge hop, you know. That was thrilling.
You weren't flying in big bombers then?
No, I was, let's see, where was it? They had some of those. I could have stayed in those. That was after this I'm just telling you about. But that's when I decided I'd do all I can to stay out of them, and I did. I got a fighter too, I think it was, before we left this country. And to get ahead of the story though, when we got to England, that's where I got the real chance to get out of it. Because they set up what they call this new command, 19 Tactical Air Command, if I recall is what they called it. Might be on another piece of paper I got somewhere. And that was from ground to air operations.
What do you mean?
Well, by that I mean, he might have some forward elements, which we were right there behind him and moving up all the time. Anytime we could move. And anytime he had the opposition, it might have been the Germans were held up someplace, you know, and hold us up, slowing our army down and getting into too much trouble that way. Or some German artillery fired in. Once we got the coordinates, in other words, their locations on those, which was we would receive. We were right there behind it all, but the forward observers out there, contact people, they get that from right out there where they could see it, you know. And they had their maps and stuff, they knew just where it was. They had zero in on it. And we would call for air support.
And that was your job?
Yeah. We call for air support and give them these coordinates. Pretty soon here they come. If it took bombing, that's what they got. If strafing would do the job, that's what they got. You know, anything to clean them up.
You would be given these orders to relay to the pilots?
These coordinates, and we'd tell them that where this was that they had to, with these coordinates, had to zero in on, and what the opposing factor is. So that would determine, you might say, what they would send. If it would seem like it was covered a big area and lots of opposition, then they would send in more fighter planes, which is loaded with machine guns, one in each wing, and some belly bombs under there. Whatever they had to use, anything to kill them off, get them out of there. And if there was a few times I can recall, we called in Mitchell's, I think it was. They had to saturate bomb, but never called in any 17s. Most of those was deep into Germany. Those big jobs.
So were you attached to the 9th Air Force?
Well, let's see. Yeah, that was part of the 9th. Yeah.
I want you to tell me about England and your discharge mentions you went to Scotland.
That's where we landed, in Scotland.
Did you take a boat across?
Yeah, we had to.
What's the name of the boat? Do you recall?
Oh, heck no. I remember it was Liberty Belt. It was Liberty Boat. quite a boat back then.
Where in Scotland did you land?
Well, all I can tell you, it was the northeastern part. Northwestern part, yeah, northwestern part of Scotland.
Does Edinburgh sound right? Or you don't know?
Well, I don't know. If I had maps of all that, there were places I could pick out. But anyway, we had more land in there. We loaded up, geared up, and headed south.
Tell me about the trip across. Were you seasick at any time?
Oh yeah, don't forget about that. We left from that around Wallizer, I think it was. And we were aboard, and sometime in the very early hours, they moved out. And I awoke and I could tell we was moving because the boat was doing that, you know. And I had to head for the head, if you know what that means. And one of the other guys, and I got out, and when I got my feet on the floor there, things were different, you know. Took me a moment there just to realize, I think, what was what. I had to grab a hold of something. Didn't have far to go, but there was the steps went up. So you could get to the head. Time I got to the top of them steps, boy, I had to throw it. Yuck! Never bothered me from then on. I went on up to the head, and there was guys there in all kinds of positions, and throw it up, and both ends. And of course, they'd just get hose out and score everything.
How was the food aboard the delivery ship?
It wasn't too bad. Wasn't too bad. Much better than K rations, C rations that you always carried with you. Because I never got back. Very, very seldom to get back and get so-called hot meal, you know.
Was your ship ever in a submarine scare going across?
Yeah. We were constantly on alert going over that, I know. And there was always plenty of escort ships like destroyers. And 14 days, 1/2 of real calm ocean. The rest of it, there was times you look over there and that one destroyer would be sitting way up there, looked like the top of the waves, and his nose sticking out and the rudders on the back of going, and then first thing you know, he was out of sight. Well, same way with them with us, you know. And it was all because of German submarines. And I thought many a time, boy, I hope they don't get one into this one. A lot of water out here to swim around in. But we made it.
Did you get any time to be out on deck and see the convoy?
A few times, and even when it was rough like that, but you had to hold on. And you could go up and pile up someplace there on the head, someplace, or bulkhead that is, and any place else. Anytime they get a chance to get out, why, everybody was for it that could. But some of those guys, I think one or two of them died from it. They just became so damn sick and couldn't get over it. And others, I think, were sick all the way.
Had you made any friends with your Air Force days at that time?
Oh yeah, you always make friends, but most of them were short-lived. You know, just a guy and another guy, and you get talking to them, joking around, fooling around. But as far as copying down names or taking pictures of camera, something there wasn't too many of. Not like they got them today, carry them in your pocket. And but I couldn't remember any of those guys from then. A few of them you remember after you get on land, and they're with you all the time. Like old buddy Elmer Goggle and a few other guys. I think their pictures in there and their names.
As you got to Scotland, you said you headed south.
Yeah, we went to Aldermaston, which was just southeast of, I think, of London. It wasn't very far from London. And there was an air base there,
It was called the
a staging area.
Aldermaston Air Force Base.
I think pretty have to be called that.
And what did you do there?
Well, just maintain equipment and stay up on what they called the latest then. That was your job. You had to maintain your own equipment, you know. With
What was the name of the equipment that you were working with?
I mean, like a trade name? I have no idea. Guess it didn't mean anything to me.
But you knew how to take care of it.
Yeah, if something wasn't working right or sounding right. Generally, you can find parts or else junk it. Get another one.
Was your radio one that used Morse code, or was it a voice radio?
Well, I knew code too. That was part of the teaching, you know. But mainly, it was seldom I ever used that code. Mainly it was just voice after you got in on the continent.
How long did you stay in England?
Yeah, I don't know. Our arrival was on that or something.
November '43.
Then, well, from then until sometime in '44, be
A few days after
sometimes
D-Day?
in early June, we left England.
How'd you get across the channel?
Well, when we went across the channel, I was on a rig that had a couple half tracks on it, and a Army truck, I think it was the big one, and my Jeep. And what we had to do is we had to wax. I always call it wax, special kind of wax. Everything on that engine. You'd have to wax heavily around spark plugs, any intake of anything, and your air intake had an extension you put on there where your dust cap is, whatever, you know, and stick it up there 4 or 5 feet above the hood. And so that way it would run underwater, because it get air in, and exhaust just blow out anyway. And so when it come time to land, heat dropped down. That was the first one off with that one. There were plenty of other ones around. They were still gathering up boats out there looking for bodies coming to the surface from the first guys in on the morning of the 8th or 6th.
What beach did you land on?
Uh,
Was it Utah or Omaha?
It was right around close to where those two come together. There was
At Carentan? You can't remember?
a lot of things there, names and places over there. I guess they didn't stick, see where he was and went on.
So you landed on the beach. Was there any trouble getting the Jeep off the boat and up the cliffs?
No. She just cranked up and into the water went, and I was standing up driving it.
Standing up.
Yeah, because it was wet. About that much of me sticked above the top of the water, you know. But after a while you dry out. I remember taking my shoes off not too long after I got in there. The water all that. I think you even pulled the socks off and wring them out. Then you dry out as you go along. It wasn't that bad in June. So they got everything aboard there, and everything was getting together and moving on inland.
Well, the invasion happened on June 6th.
Yeah,
When did you
6th.
land?
8th,
On the 8th.
if I recall, morning of the 8th. We couldn't pull out when they had to. Like, we were sitting around there waiting to go over for a week.
Was there anybody else in that Jeep when you were debarking from the boat?
Just me. And everybody else got with me later. They drove something off too, you know, but I don't know what.
Where were you supposed to meet up?
On the beach. Yeah, on the beach.
How long did you stay on the beach before you went up to the hill?
Not very long. After you got in on the beach, things were slowly getting together and heading up, because you only had about one way to get up through there. It was somewhat of a natural opening, but I think some bulldozing may have been done to help it a little bit. And you didn't have to go too far, but it's fairly steep until you was up on top, and you can get to see around well and back out over the English Channel. So I wasn't on the beach very long.
Was there any opposition or artillery fire coming on the beach?
No, but we weren't up on high ground, so to speak, and we were headed south. At Normandy, we landed up in here, well, we'll say up in here, and those bases in Normandy kind of extends out like that, see, south, southwest, full of Germans. And we were headed that way. We hadn't gone too far, and there was a sniper. Of course, couldn't hear him, but those just ahead of us a little ways could, and there was a tank up there moving down. I think he didn't get off when we did. I think he was already up there. And then, so everything come to a halt, because with this sniper shot, as far as I know, it didn't hit anybody, but they knew it was being fired on. And when they all stopped, we could see guys barreling out. I did too, you know, just got kind of down beside the Jeep. Went along that tank. He just started backing up along the side of the road a little bit. They got down, there was an old village stood up there. I would say maybe it was a church of some kind at one time, but Hitler wasn't any Christian. But anyway, it had a little tower on it, you know, staple. And I figured the shot had to come from there, because the only thing of any height, building, so to speak. A lot of open ground. That tank backed up there, and he cocked that barrel over there and brought it up, and he couldn't get up high enough, so he just backed her down a little bit so the back end drop off the edge of the road. Then he could get that barrel up there. And he cut loose and all kinds of stuff went flying out toward the top of that staple. Probably that sniper too, in parts and pieces.
Was this the same day that you landed?
Yeah. And so I could see there was some go up to investigate, and they were more infantry, I think. They went up and investigated, wasn't long, they come back down. Well, it didn't go very far, and there was another one. It was on the left side of the road, and the building sit down off the road. It was part, mainly wood, and a little bit of stone, like on the corners. So, they backed up, I think it was a half track, and they turned the 50-50 caliber on that shack. They peppered it. Stones and wood and dust went flying. And someone run down there, they come out, and they was dragging a body. They dragged him up very close to the road. And I got a good look at it, and I bet that body wasn't any more than 14 years old.
A German?
Or a sympathizer or something.
Was that the first dead person you had seen?
Yeah. There, yeah. And on the land, yeah. But like I say, I could see, I don't remember how many of those boys that was lost, never got a chance to get on land, drowned out there in the bay with full equipment on. Some of them got shot by all that stuff the Germans were throwing out there.
When you saw this sympathizer or German body there, 14-year-old kid, was anybody else with you in the Jeep?
Not right then, because everybody had something to drive in, and bigger units, there might have been several more fellas in that truck or that bigger unit, like a half track or something, you know. But we were just moving up, so I just did my Jeep.
Who was your officer at this time?
And we wasn't up there where we had to get any calls anyway. We hadn't got that position. His name was Miller. Can't remember his first name. I didn't like him very well. Miller.
But he wasn't with you. Were you still at the front of the column for your
No,
group?
actually, there was some ahead of me because they got off, I guess, and got in there supposed to before I did on the beach. Miller and those officers, they were out there. But as things get tougher, well, you don't see much of them, they get back more, you know. And let the good old GI and other guys get out there and take the brunt of it. That's the way it goes. So anyway, we were heading south, and I don't remember how far we had gone, but suddenly we got the call. They got around all of us to hold up, take position. The Huns were breaking out of Normandy because they knew they was closing in on the south part, the Allies. They was coming in from the north, and they didn't want that big army trapped in there. They had to fight their way out. They lost a lot of men and equipment. But I took position. First thing you know, somebody flopped down beside it. It was the old commanding officer. I thought to myself, well, why picked me? But I thought about it later. He knew what kind of a character I could be back then, like I said. He knew I could use these. Physically, I could do about anything. And he knew I was a damn good shot with rifle or pistol.
Did you have a rifle at that time?
And, oh yeah, I had my carbine. They were nice little guns. They fired fast. Wasn't they good from a real long distance, but you could throw a lot of lead out there. We could hear a lot going on up there, you know. And I just barely, and so the major said, I think I seen some motion up there. I said, I thought I did too. And it was probably some Huns trying to make a run for it. Maybe they got shot before they got out, because the old front line infantrymen were right up there, you know. But they managed to break through and got on into France in the hedgerow area. And that was a tricky situation in daggone hedgerows. And
Can you tell me about your first night on the continent?
I sure didn't go to any motel or hotel. Yeah. Well, I had to be sleeping in that Jeep, under that Jeep, near that Jeep. Rolled up in a blanket. With the whole outfit on. Because it got so at times you didn't get much sleep. Wasn't nothing. As time went by, you go 2 or 3 days without any sleep, you know, or nights. But you kind of get used to it, but I think that was part of the strategy, because it tends to make people more mean. You know, when you're deprived of things like that, it just comes naturally, and you need. But you kind of get used to it, though. I can always wake up easy.
Tell me about setting up your first post where you would call in support.
Well, that had to be as we were entering into the hedgerow areas, which was a good place for them Huns. They had plenty of places to hide, and all the roads back in those hedgerows, such as they were dirt, and they were just there for access from farmers and stuff, you know. But all their fields, instead of fences, they had hedgerows. That stuff grew thick and tough, boy. You couldn't plow through it. A tank, finally some GI rigged one up, and they adapted that and put it on, and they could run into those hedgerows and knock the hole out. And then, as the infantry went through there, time they get to a hedgerow, maybe chop and hack it or find a way to get in, they always had one opening of some kind of swinging gate or something on it, or bars there. That was the French. And they'd get in there maybe after got about midway or out in the open, the field, and the Huns would be hiding over there and the other side in that hedgerow, and then they'd open up machine guns, rifles, and whatnot. These guys didn't have much protection. Hit the ground running and hope you make it to better protection. But we got quite a few of those because as we passed through, then the Huns, they would put that doggone tanks down there in that low places where their so-called roads was. The fields was always higher and hedges down both sides, see. And they'd even cross over places like that. And they'd have them tanks in there, and they had their observers out there too. They'd get the word. They'd know when to move a tank up. He'd come up there to maybe a crossroads like that. And as soon as they knew, they got the word to come in sight, they just pulled out there as they did, they'd swing that turn around, just start firing right down through there because they knew there's plenty of GIs coming in there, coming across, you know. Then they'd straighten up and back down in there until such time as they closed in on them too much and around them, then they'd move on in further. And that was a good day when they got out of the hedgerows. And it was in that area there where, well, I think it was about time we got out of the hedgerows when we really had to. I started getting calls, putting calls out.
Before that time, you really didn't do too much.
No, not too much. I remember one time we had this, me and two of the other guys got an order to string a wire from some temporary housing quarters back there for the upper dogs down to some certain point there where they tap in on it and call back. That was a benefit, maybe the captain or lieutenant or something was out there. But other than that, my first calls I began to put in was after I got out of the hedgerows.
The pilots you were calling, had you met before?
Well, if I did, I didn't know it. Might have been some that buzzed around with down there Langley on some of those training missions. You know.
But you didn't know them?
Yeah, I didn't know when you just call there and give orders and you get a response. And that's about it. They do their job. I do mine. When we got the order, we'd move up. I saw old General Patton twice, but not really close enough to walk up and say, "Hi, Pat." Anything like that.
Were you in 3rd Army, attached
Yeah.
to the 3rd Army?
Yeah, it was part of the 3rd Army, yeah. Patton called us his air cavalry.
When Patton broke out of Normandy and raced across France, did your unit follow?
Oh yeah, I moved right on with them, yeah, until they got orders to hold up. Some generals over here and these jerks back in this country, yeah, he'd went right on, non-stop right on into Germany. He'd like to go right on to Berlin.
Was there any time that you lacked gasoline to keep your Jeep going?
No, fortunately I didn't.
Anybody with your unit?
I can't recall any, but I know that was happening some places, you know. And I think most of that happened after I think began to Patton, basically, began to bear north toward Belgium for the Bulge.
Was there any time in France where you thought you were in physical danger from being killed by snipers or artillery?
Yeah, snipers. Never encountered many snipers though after those first ones I mentioned that I can recall, because generally sniper, he didn't have a chance. A sniper, he was a dead man as soon as they found him. They didn't make him a prisoner. They killed him right down, right on the spot.
Had you seen any prisoners up until this time?
And no, I hadn't, but later I saw a few German prisoners. And saw them hauling back some of our old buddies, some of them on top of the Jeep, some of them you knew was dead. Passage going back. I used to think, well, I wonder if I knew that guy. Maybe we would.
Was there any one town in France that you stayed in any longer than any other?
Yeah, we were held up one time. I think it was Nancy, France. It was a nice sized town. Wish I had a map of that old country over there I could think about. I remember as we was moving in, after all the hedgerows, we the Mets, M-E-T-Z, I think it was. And it sit down in the valley. It seemed like there was hills pretty well around it. And it was full of Germans. So our army set up, you might say, surrounding that town, almost, with artillery. And then they heavy bombed the heck out of it. And then artillery, those Huns kept throwing things back just as long as they could, and finally they had nothing else to give. So they took what they could get and got out of there. That town was really blown to smithereens. So then we could move on. We went down through there, and the Ford elements, they had some big tanks there with blades on it. The road street we went up through to get through that town, you could see where they went up through, and they knocked all the debris out of the way, you know. So then we went through Metz, but that was the first town that I ever saw busted up like that. A lot of dead Huns in there. So that's,
Is that what you called the Germans at that time, Huns?
yeah. That goes way back.
But that's what you used.
Yeah.
Did
That's what
anybody
most of
else use other names for
Yeah,
them?
most all of anybody you talk to call them Huns. Because there was the Huns way back, they called them. Remember, if you know your history. And it was quite a conquering army way back then.
Did you have a nickname while you were in the service?
No, Wallizer was about the only nickname I ever get. Just Wally for Wallizer.
When you looked and directed this aerial bombardment, could you actually see the airplanes you were calling in to hit the target?
Yeah, generally you could, yeah. See him, you hear him. Then pretty soon you could see him. Sometimes you could see him quite a while. Other times you get, all it depends what the terrain was, you know. Sometimes they went out of sight because they were getting low. When they got that low, you knew they were strafing. But if they didn't get that low, sometimes when they got out of sight, pretty soon you'd see him going back up. Well, boom! He'd throw a couple bombs.
How far away were these targets from where you set up your radio?
Oh, it could be. Sometimes they seem like they're awful close. Might be as much as a mile. You know, maybe you could use that for an average. But always in the infantry, they always have these forward guys, you know. And they might do an awful lot of their work on their belly, but they do all they can to get out there and see what the situation is, so they can let them behind him know to move up, come in. Sometimes they have called tanks in first, which is always some tanks up there.
As the winter started getting close, and November was come along, and then early December, were you still attached to Patton's Third Army?
Yeah, it was until they finished up in the Bulge. Went into Germany first for a little bit, you know. Then they had to get back out there. I remember going across a big pontoon bridge they put across the river there. But we should remember names of all the places like here. Sometimes you see a sign, you hear where you're at, and then forget about it. And we weren't there very long, like 6, maybe 2 days or something. Back across the river, and then headed north. It was on the way north that he became short on fuel. I remember hearing about that. That bit though, we managed to get in there to him, convoys and stuff. Got her into port in England or France where they could. Well, that time they could bring it into Porto in France. And then, I suppose we got the balls, and then the German they'd moved about everything they had up there. A desperation shot, I think, and other guys. And then weather set in. Couldn't get any flights in. low ceiling, heavy above it. And I forget how many days it was. We had to sit there just north of Liège until we could move up any further. And then you could hear heavy stuff off well in the distance with what our armies had to fire with and the Germans what they had to fire with. And the only gas they had, so I learned, was what they could take off of us.
Did you ever get a call in for support that you couldn't relay to the airplanes?
There was some talk, if I recall, during that inclement weather when we couldn't get a flight in, you know, because we needed those level flights. If the doggone weather would break. And a few times get a call or put one out, talk the situation over, they might want to know what conditions are. That was about the extent of it. And then finally, it began to break. Well, it wasn't long then. They knew when they could get in there and let them know it was breaking overhead here too, see.
Again, you were getting dive bombers to come in.
Yeah. Well, I didn't call them dive bombers then. They're practically the same. The dive bombers were called that later. But it was generally fighters, machine guns, and bombs.
P-51?
Yeah, that was a good plane. Well, P-47s. We had a lot of them. That was a good plane. Radio engine. That was a good plane this day. And any time they'd make a pass or a mission, they had to come back that way and then fly over where they knew we were. They would always rev their engine a little bit and then wave you goodbye because it was going back to the base. It was interesting, but well, then we got that bulge job over with.
Did you ever make it into Bastogne yourself?
I was close to it, but Bastogne didn't get right up there in yet, but it was close to it. I remember calls him for that up around there. A lot of them little towns and places, I can't remember. But I remember something real well. And it was Christmas Eve, I think. Sometime right around Christmas. And me and my old buddy Elmer, he was with me. And we come into this little town. And they went like that, and Elmer looked over and said, "What are you slowing down for?" I said, "Do you hear anything?" And I just slowed her down there real well and stopped. I said, "Yeah, I hear singing." I said, "That's what I hear." Drove just a little ways. It was getting pretty dark. You only had them little lights like that you could run with, 1/4 inch wide and 1 inch long. There was a great good sizable old church stood there. And pretty hard to tell, but I know it had to be made out of stone. So I pulled up in front of it there. And I wasn't very far from the front door, maybe 8 feet or 10. And we got out, went over and started opening that door. There was resistance. Well, soon found what it was because I got it open enough I could see in there. I could see people. They were standing up back against the wall, and there was something against the door. They moved enough that I could squeeze in. And my buddy, he squeezed in. We was right inside the door. Well, I didn't hear everything they was saying like that. But they just finished singing shortly after we went in. Then they're doing some kind of praying. I said a prayer too. Then I was ready to get out of there. But I'll never forget that. It gave me a real good feeling. Never forgot it.
After the Battle of the Bulge, our armies went into Germany.
Yeah.
But it was very cold, I've been told,
Yeah.
during that winter.
Yeah, it was.
Where did you sleep typically during that winter?
Well, now I can. But up in there, I try to remember I could find a place to pull in. If we did, I said they're going to use to pile up in that Jeep. Sometimes I'd sit sleeping up, you know, and I always had to play the old GI blankets with me. Sometimes I'd get up and throw it in across the seat and down it, there where my feet would be. And then I'd get in there and I'd pull them up over me. And I'd just get as comfortable as could there. Of course, back then, like young like that, heck, fall asleep. No problem to do it now. It'd be so kinked up you couldn't move. So
Was the equipment bolted to the Jeep, or was it just placed in the Jeep?
no, that it had to be secured was, you know, the equipment. Of course, some old radios they had back there to talk on, it was about that square and about that long, and they had the antenna stuck out, you see. Not like they got today. But anything that had to be secured, and some of them, you had a belt strap you could pull over and hook. I mean, they stayed there. And of course, carried my chow there and carried extra gasoline. Those 5-gallon cans. The Jeep had places built to put them on. And had lots of old K and C rations. That's better than nothing. One time we run across the cow, going back. Still in France. It was somewhat mountainous. And this old road, I don't know why we went up around that way, but I could look at the compass, I knew I was going where I should go. And Elmer said, "There's a cow." Well, even down off the road there, what had been a field and still was, I guess, some kind of an old house over there. There's probably a farmer who lived there. I said, "Let's check that one out. We'll have cow or milk." So there was a little old road there we could get down. We went down there, and the old cow stood there and looked at us. Walked over there. Heck, it had some milk in it. Took my helmet off. Shook around a little bit. Sat down there and squatted down there, and I milked that old cow. Got quite a bit of milk in it. And then while I was doing that, I said, "Got to build a fire, Elmer." I said, "I'll get one." One long. He had a nice little lawn there. And with twigs and stuff found laying around. Took my helmet over there, got it rigged up, and set it over there, and brought that milk to just where it's going to start to boil. You know. Shook it around in that helmet so it cooled down enough. Boy, that tastes good. It's real milk. I hadn't had any of that since I left home, I don't think. Or maybe England. And I gave him his shot. He liked her too.
Had you had to shoot your rifle at all yet?
I really had to yet. Indirectly, I guess I caused a lot of Huns take their last sleep. But we're still coming down the balls, right?
Right.
And I know that one reason we had to hold up, I'm sure, is that English general had been down in Africa. He thought he had to get in there and Belgium first and across and be the big dog. But anyway, so then we backtracked and headed south. And from where we went as far south as could, way off there in the distance, you could see what I was told was some of the out part of the big mountains here in Switzerland. See. Anyway, there was a bridge there had been blasted, and it laid down, but you could still climb your way across to get over there. And over there was a village of some kind, and that's where we set up or went up in that big old factory, and I got all skin up.
Tell me about that day.
And I don't know what the heck they made there before. There's a big old building. And They had a couple machine guns set up in there.
We did, or the Germans?
No, our men. Well, actually, it was, you might say, the F-Street boys. They had observation posts there too. And so we set up in there, because we could operate out of there if we needed any help easy enough. But in the meantime, while you could look out, lift a slat like that, or one of those tiles, look across and see everything on the other side over there. And getting ahead of the story. I think I was up there at least 3 days and nights, and somebody said, "There's a guy keeps coming up here past these slag piles and getting on that old boat sitting up there. So we better check him out." So I waited around and finally said, "Here he comes again every day, maybe once or definitely once, you know." And he'd get on his boat and they had a little cabin-like thing on a box thing, I call it. It had been painted white, but kind of faded out. And he'd go in there. And finally this guy decided, well, now he don't have any business coming there. He's not running that boat. He can't run that boat. So he's doing something he shouldn't be doing. He might have been getting in touch with those across the river. So anyway, the old infantry boys got together, and I can't remember their names, and called them, whatever they called them. And said, "Well, we'll take care of that." They had 3 big slag piles after we got out of the building on the opposite side from the river. And he had a bazooka, and I took the ammunition, and I forget what all. Another guy went with us, and he had 2 rifles. I had my carbine strapped. We're up there and slow down a little bit, and one at a time just make a run past where those slag piles was, you know, just in case. And hesitate. Didn't want to run in unionism. Until we got up to the last one, laid in around there, we could get a good look at that boat. He leveled off, and I knew what to do. But that'd be ammo for that bazooka, because he told me. He leveled off and squatted down there right. He said, "Load me." Put him one in there. He fired. He hit that boat, but it hit on the deck just to right. That cabinet glanced and went off. You could see the splash way up there in the water. So, done it again. By golly, he hit her right that time. Things went flying. And that boat, I think it sank before long. I've never seen more of that character coming down that boat. Whether it was good or bad, don't know, but that's hell of war, you know. So anyway, then after that, I was up in there whenever they started shooting across the river there. That's when I skipped my hands all up and skipped my belly all up and probably had a pain storm and whatnot. But they healed up. I had a few good-sized splinters sticking in there I had to pull out. Didn't have too much medicine around. Just cleaned them out.
So why did you fall down and skin your hand?
Well, when something hits like that, the shrapnel starts flying, especially when they hit that tile, boy, it just dust and parts and pieces, see? And any metal that can split. There wasn't much metal in that building except some of the supporting girders were not too. See? So maybe I got a fragment off of one of those. I don't know. But never really got sore. Just healed up like everything else. So anyway, don't make it just me. I don't live off the metals anyway.
So you continued with your unit after that?
Oh yeah. Yeah, until wasn't too long after that. But before I left there, near there was a building, and it had room in there for at least two vehicles, double doors that opened out. And one thing you always had to guard against is always keep in mind it might be booby trapped. It could be a step. You might step on it. It could be a door. It could be most anything. You have to use your imagination, which reminds me back there, I had to pull that wire up through that time in the hedgerow, and I was pulled a Jeep and had to reel on the back, a couple of guys on back there. And it was warm weather because I was stripped from here down. And leaning over like that, and something caught my eye, and I looked, it was a wallet. One of those photo wallets. About so long, you know. So I just stopped the Jeep, and I pulled up an old long blade, and I leaned over there, and I just gently probed all around that baby, and lifted a little bit to see if anything could move. Well, I'm satisfied. So I picked the purse up and just stood there in the Jeep. When I got that job done, I looked at it. It belonged to a lieutenant colonel. Man, he had a lot of money in that thing. He never got it though. I found out later he was killed in the hedgerow. But I made sure the wallet got back for any papers and stuff in it. I had to send to somebody. I figured, hell, I need that more than he does. He wouldn't be carrying that around. So that's a crook in me, I guess. Had to get paid for something they didn't pay us much. So anyway, we faced up down there in southern Germany and getting ready to pull out of there. And so I had my Jeep. Before we left, I said, I'll check this building out here. Lo and behold, nothing in one side, and opened the door to the other, and there sat Mercedes-Benz. A touring convertible, I guess you call it, top laid back on it, and it was a light tan in color, and wasn't nothing wrong with it. And I told Elmer, I said, wonder if that baby will start. I said, we better check it out real good. We looked all around it and under it and looked for strings or wire, this, that, and was careful when they lifted the hood and everything. And you definitely checked the motor, it had oil, it had water. It didn't have much fuel, but they had fuel on the Jeep. So I just put some gas in that baby. And looked around there and found some kind of stuff, I guess it was paint. And I can't remember whether I could find a brush or something, but we smeared it on there and smeared a big white star up on the hood and one on each door inside. Once in a while you'd see characters like that, and I happened to be one of them. And drove her away. We was headed back then. They might tell you the war was over. We was headed back to our last and first place of roundup. And there's where I left that old Mercedes sitting. One long was on the way home. Then I came out on points, which they did back then. The ones who had the most points. That was in the first bunch. So I was dragged down there. We got off someplace there on a ship in France. I lucked out there. It was a pretty nice boat. It wasn't on there very long, and we got a call. Ken Wallizer. And lo and behold, it was a guy from Mount Savage, and it's not too far up the road here. Every time somebody got on that boat, he was part of the crew. He had a pretty good position on there. He had his own quarters, and he came down and checked me out. Looked me over, told me who he was. His last name was Flanagan. Probably dead and gone now. He told me what he done and how he knew I was on there. He said, I looked, and if anybody even close to coming around, he said, I get in touch with him. He said, come on up to my quarters. You'll sleep well, we'll eat well. By golly, that's where I come back. My older brother, he was over there. He came back on the old Queen Elizabeth, Queen Mary or something. It's showboat out there in California now. I was on it.
Was your parents glad to see you back when you came
Oh,
home?
definitely. Yeah, they met me down at Fort Meade, I guess it was. Yeah. That's where I got the discharge.
While you were in combat for those almost year in Europe, did you get replacement clothes?
Oh yeah, wasn't any trouble to get clothes if you got them all busted, chewed up, and you could always get somebody who's going back and forth to headquarters and stuff. They could pick it up.
Did you carry anything for good luck?
Yeah, I was never superstitious.
Did you write your parents much?
When I could, yeah. Another thing I forgot was, one time I come real close. Of course, when I was in England, I remember when they started to send those putt-putts across, we call them. Some of the first jet-propelled things that Hitler drew up, you know. And he would kick on and glide a ways, then kick on, then glide a ways. And after a bit, when it didn't glide or didn't putt-putt anymore, you knew you were going to hear a big bang. And you did. That's when he started bombing those London with them. But before that, while we were stationed there, it was while some of their German bombers would come over. And wasn't long, you'd hear a big boom. One of them hit the ground, then shot down. And a couple of times, they come over and try to get back out from England, I guess, and they'd have an English pursuit plane on those Spitfires. They were good. And they always managed to knock them out. And after a bit, you see one come over, and here comes Spitfire, and pretty soon you'd hear one way off there someplace. Shoot him down, you know.
Did you actually ever see one get hit in the air?
No, can't say I actually did that way, this, where they got hit. But I would like to. So anyway, that was pretty good. Then before we got up into the Balls, south of Liège, we had to sit up there, and there was a little town near there that commanding officers set up in. We could operate out of there, and I had to make trips back there once in a while. And one day, I'd been back to headquarters and got something. Oh, I knew what it was. I knew I'd be back there overnight or 2 days. So I went hunting. This was in Belgium. And I knew about these deer. They had big herds out there, small. So I just went hunting. Went up the road in this little old town and run out of the buildings and homes all the way. Pulled off to the side on the road with a little snow on the ground. And I shimmied up that bank because I could see some deer tracks out there. I peeked up over the top, and boy, there was a mess of them out there. I just leveled my carbine and started shooting. Am I still on?
Yeah, I'm glad to stop and change the tape.
And down to this little town, I went deer hunting. When I got done shooting, I'd shot 7 times, and I had 7 deer.
7 deer.
Yeah.
Did you have to have permission to go shoot the deer?
I didn't have permission. The war was on. And I dragged them out. I could drag 3 at a time easy, you know. So I made 2 trips. I loaded them on the Jeep. They were much smaller than the size of these we have. But I figured it sure tastes good, fresh meat. And I pulled up in there, and the end of the building where the kitchen was, and along somebody spotted him and all of me, and then the chief cook, he came out. And they knew what that was for. And they strung him out there and skinned him out, went along. He had lots of deer meat. The whole outfit was down around there. They all get deer meat, including all the officers. And old Major Miller, he said, that sure was good. He said, haven't had any meat like that in a long time. He didn't say more. I was there next day. If I didn't get back, I would have shot 3 more.
Gave them to the cooks again?
Yeah, I brought him down there again. And so Major Miller, he called me aside. He said, "Sure appreciate that beef." He said, "We're not really supposed to shoot them because it belongs to the Duchess of Belgium," I think he said, something like that. I said, "I didn't know that." I said, "Oh, I think I was meat or something to eat." He said, "Well, that part was real good." He said, "Don't bring any more." Well, I didn't. So anyway, shortly thereafter, moved back up to where we set up. There's a little stone building. And door on one end, 3 windows, one to each side and one to the other end. And you went in the middle of the building, and kind of a little hallway halfway down. And a couple little rooms way back there. And it was thick wall. So I pulled in, right out there was the Ardennes, or part of the Ardennes Forest, I guess you call it, which is famous even from the First World War. And I pulled in there under the edge, and had any more pulled in and stopped, one went over. I knew immediately what it was. If you hear it, don't worry. But it was an 88. Didn't any more go over, and boom, up there it went. Boy, I was out of that Jeep and then. I picked them up and laid them down to that shed, and I practically dove in that opening. And about that time, one went off. It hit there in the pine trees on top. And they only threw the 2 of them. But from where they were sitting, some observer can tell them where they should put it. So it wasn't far off, but towards shed, that 88 was one hell of a cannon. It throws stuff a long ways, even any aircraft. And so later, it cooled down there, went back out. Tree tops and pieces scattered around there. Look, there's a hole down the seat. Come in kind of from the back top, like that, out to the seat.
A piece of shrapnel?
If I'd have been sitting there, that'd have been the end of me. Where that baby come down through there when it hit, you know. So anyway, it nicked the edge of the gas tank. So I'm going back to headquarters. Going back, I got another Jeep. They fix that one up, I guess, someplace. So that was a close one. And once in a while, some stray shots you could hear ping into something or go sailing over from forward elements, opposing elements, you know, shooting back. Other than that, though, I guess I'm pretty lucky. Different times, pretty close.
I want to jump back a little bit. We hadn't talked about this, but you were in the military when Pearl Harbor was attacked.
Yeah.
Do you recall how you heard the news about Pearl Harbor being attacked?
First, I guess, I know. I was stationed at Chanute Field at that time, and done my basics, moved there, was going out on pass. And when I got to the gate, halt, nobody's going out. Japs just hit Pearl Harbor. I cussed them damn Japs. And I cuss them yet today. I wouldn't buy anything with Japanese name on it. Because they got away with it, they would demolish all of us. Anyway, that's when I first heard about it.
Had
I
you
was
met
already
your,
in the service, I knew. And ended up, we trained in Langley Field. We trained to go west and go to Japan. When we got to California, we got orders to backtrack. Then we come back, and we ended up going to ETO.
had you met your wife during your time in the
Oh,
service?
yeah. I met her when I was in Chanute Field, on pass, before the Japs hit. Went out, and me and a couple of buddies, night on town, so to speak. So he always looked for a place of entertainment. And we didn't screw up.
Where did you meet her?
And I met her in Bloomington, Illinois. That was maybe 80, 90 miles south of Chinook Field. Didn't have much trouble getting a ride back there. It was in uniform and stuff on the road, you know. I didn't have a vehicle then. And so me and a couple of my buddies, we out on the town in Bloomington, and we ended up, somebody told us about this place. They said, always have good music out there and lots of room to dance. Well, we'll just go out there. I never got in the building. I got bottom steps and started. Well, here come Dot and her sister down. Her sister was older than her, and she was a big one. She had an eye, boy, she glued that eye on you, wouldn't get off on you. But I spotted Dot and she had a fur coat on. And I spoke and she spoke back. I said, looks like you're leaving, something to that effect. And yeah, I've been here long enough. I said, well, if you don't mind to go along, where are we going now? Things like to that effect. They mentioned it. Well, Nellie had a car, and there was another girl with him, come to think of it. I got in the back. Time everybody got in there in a full car. Doc got in my side, and she had to sit on my lap. And that fur coat, all like that. And she was a pretty brunette, and she wasn't quite 18 yet. I have pictures of her. And so every chance I get going past, I get out and see her, and we'd go out on town and do something to eat, walk around. Nothing we shouldn't do, because she knew how to keep you in your place if you got out of line. And she'd do a good job of it today, too. She was one of a bunch of kids. Mother died when she was 7. She learned how to work out there on the farm real well.
What was her name?
Dorothy McWhorter. And so anyway, time come, had to ship out. And we drop her a line, vice versa. And I don't know what the heck happened. I couldn't find time. It was while I was in England to get things, everything we had to do. And I got so I couldn't find her address or remember it. So I lost track of it. So I went on to the damn war. When I come back, I'd finished up my electrical training and stuff, and I went to Pittsburgh. I worked here a short while. The money was considerably better, and worked over there. While I was working there, I came on the weekends, most of the weekend, my home. Had a card, a little letter or a card or something, from Dot. And she gave me her address. She was working at Walgreens. She was in charge of the fountain area where they'd sell ice cream, this, that, sort of forth. And so I left that weekend, went back to Pittsburgh. When I got there, I called the airport and made reservations. Wasn't long, I took off for Chicago. And grabbed a cab, got out to where her place of business was. We met again. I was glad, because I liked what I saw of her the first time I ever saw her.
Had you left any girls behind when you went into the service?
Oh, some different girlfriends. I never had trouble getting a girlfriend, but I was always protected. And I sure as hell didn't want someone wanted me, or they thought they did. I was always protected. It was all nice little girl.
But nobody serious.
No, never felt like hooking up with one of them, you know. A lot of them I liked. They were, we'd just say good friends. And they conduct themselves. As long as they was a lady, I was a gentleman, you know. There's, most of them I could read pretty well. There wasn't nothing to do with that one. So anyway,
Why
I
you,
flew over to see her, and I come back before I left. I said, I'll be back before long. I'm going to take you with me. And I went back, sure enough. She left with me. We came back to Cumberland. Dad and Mother is fucked the world over, and stayed there just a short while. We got married here in Cumberland. Didn't have any big wedding, but we got married.
where were you when Hitler committed suicide? Do you recall that day when the war pretty much ended in Europe?
Well, I had to be down there, South Germany, along that river there, because it was just about over then. I think down there is where we may have got the word it was over.
Was there any celebration of any sort? Or what did you
Yeah.
do?
Never seen much celebration around there because it wasn't that kind of place. We might have been in a little town somewhere. There's a lot of GIs or something in there, and native people. Yeah, there might have been some, you know. I remember one time when on pass went down to some little French cafe, and there's some opposing army units in there, and they got in the hell of a fracas. They were really punching one another, and bodies are flying. I grabbed a bottle I had there and got out the door. I don't want to get in that. Got one of those one time in Southern California after we went west thinking we was going to go to South Pacific. A little town by the name of Coachella. Just about a crossroads there, you might say. It had a big booze joint and playroom to dance in it. I didn't get a chance to get off the base. Get down there, the place, that little bird get something to drink. It had a long bar in it. And I was sitting right there about the middle of the bar. There was an opening where the waitress went out, and over there was a dance floor, stood a foot or so higher than the rest of the floor, front door floor. I was sitting there having a beer, and there's quite a few guys over there. Pretty soon, things didn't sound right, and I turned around and looked. Some Negroes come in. They must have been half drunk, or they had a lot to learn. I don't know, there must have been 4 or 5 of them at least. Some of those boys come off of that dance floor there where they had booths around it. They got into it. One of them got hit, one of the Negroes. And he ended up, I was having my back toward the counter then, he ended up right down there. And there was a bottle laying there beside him on the floor. And I had my beer sitting here in my hand like I was drinking it and watching that. And I saw him, he was going to get that bottle. Well, I just flipped my bottle, still had a little beer in it, and the beer went flying, I guess. I put him to sleep. And I slid off that bar stool, out the door and landed in. Didn't want to get out the door and just up the street a little bit, in a little building there, and the door set back in. I'd stepped up on it, it was dark. Here come the MPs. They went down and hauled them out.
As the war ended in Europe, was there any concern on your part that you would be sent to the Pacific?
Well, I thought about that, but thankfully it didn't work out that way, but I didn't want to go down there if I could help it. So
I hear Truman uses the atomic bomb to end the war in the Pacific. Looking back at it now, what do you think about that?
I think damn Jap got just what he needed, because if they had it, they'd have used it on us. You can bet on that. They used everything they had anyway, so I didn't care how they fried them, slaying eyes up. That's the way I felt about them back then. Anybody sneak enough to try to pull one on us like they did, they have no concerns for Caucasians. So I said, give them everything you can. If you kill everyone off, been all right with me. But that's what I'm thinking. And I still don't like Japs.
Did you ever keep a personal diary during the war?
Just didn't have much time. Never thought much of it.
Was there any time while you were in service that you thought that maybe you were making history?
I wasn't in there to make history. To me, it was just something I had to do because I'd volunteered to do it, you know.
After the war, you came home. Did you use the GI Bill to help?
No, I thought about it, but I didn't. I'm glad I went where I did, though. I learned a good profession. And two of my boys are into electrical work, and they both have real good jobs and company vehicle.
Did your military experience influence your thinking about war?
You might say it did to an extent. And I mean by that, when my way of thinking, my life is in danger, and my families and all my other people, my fellow man, people of my kind, and we better do something to stop it. And that's the way with Hitler. He was out to take the whole damn world if he could have. He wouldn't have stopped if we couldn't have got him stopped and all of our allies and Russia. He had just kept on going. Might have took him all his life to do it. But we might all have been hiling Hitler. I don't take much of hiling somebody, you know. So yeah, anytime I think it's for the benefit and the safety of our peoples, let them know they're going to get cleaned out if they don't back off.
Did you join any veterans organizations after the war?
I was in 2 or 3 of them, but it didn't stay long. One reason because I was away from home so a lot and doing some different things, and I come to find out that for what I thought I might be getting out of it, I wasn't going to get all that, but they always had the jar out, so to speak. Well, somebody's living off of this. I'm not getting much out of it. So all I know is I'm an old vet, and that's good enough for me.
Did you ever keep contact with any of the veterans who you served with?
Yeah, there was about 3 in particular. Yeah, we're all dead and gone. My last one, a good old, real close buddy, Elmer Gargle, he died close to a year ago. I knew he was going to go. He told me.
Did you ever attend any type of reunion at all?
I mean, what do you read?
Reunion? A veterans gathering of...
Oh, I've been in the mortuary. I read for a few of them, you know, fellas I knew well. But
If you look back at your service time and the experiences that you had in war, how would you say it affected your life?
well, I could say I was a lot smarter and wiser in many ways than I was when I went in. You learn a lot about politics, for one thing, and how crummy they can be, and one-sided and selfish. So about all I can say, you come out a lot wiser than you were when you went in.
Do you think it mentally affected you? Did you have any flashback of any sort?
No, never caused me to flashback or wake up or anything. I guess I was used to, just as a kid coming up and hunting and all that, seeing blood and guts, which I saw some of, you know. And to me, it was just unfortunate for somebody. Could have been me, but no flashbacks. Never mind. bother me that way.
We've gotten into other conflicts since, I like to say, your war, the Second World War, like Korea and Vietnam, and now today, Iraq. How did those conflicts compare to what you did?
No rave because they don't have what I call a good and definite reason for the benefit of all Americans. You know, there's Korea. What did you get out of that? Well, young guys lost their lives. A friend of mine up the road, one of his boys lost his in that mess. What did he get out of it? We was told that the first reason he got in there was because of oil. Well, I don't know if any oil being there and being shipped out or whether they got it or not, you know. But bound to have been some political gains to be made there for some reason or other. It's just like Japan, they try to stab us in the back. Then we turn around and give them everything they want, you know, other than what they steal off of us and rebuild their country. Not me. Some bugger tries to hit me and back like that. He don't get away with it. He better look out. I'm not doing nothing for him. And then come Vietnam, another lost cause. What did we get out of that? Can you know anything worthwhile? So it's a split country. North don't see the South because of politics and vice versa. Well, our guys lost their lives. Now we got this goofy thing over here. Now somebody is BSing somebody. Well, they wanted to went in there in the first place. They hunted and hunted and hunted and hunted for proof of an atomic bomb before it invaded. Never found any. From what I understand, I read, any country's got an atomic bomb and make them like that. There's lots of ways to find out that they're doing it. You know, because radioactivity, one thing, it's in the air. A lot of things are being shipped in and out of the country. So I don't think that mess over there should happen. Those people, you got the Shiites, the Sunnis, how many more?
Bundles, yeah.
There's 3 or 4 of them. Supposedly all Muslims. I thought all Muslims worship and thought the same. But they're opposing factions, you know. One guy steps over the line and the Sunni line, hell, he's going to get his head cut off and vice versa. They was doing that when Hussein was in there, you know, because he was opposed to a clan opposite his, you know. So.
In March, I have a gathering of veterans at my high school and talk to students who are about the age you were when you went into the military. They're about 17, 18 years old.
I was 21.
If you had any closing remarks that you would, or advice to give these young people, some of which are thinking about going to the military, what advice would you give them from your experiences?
I'd say, think about all the branches of service and do all you can to find out what they have to offer that'd be most beneficial for you. But probably what I'd tell them.
Thank you for your interview today. Is there any last words you'd like to say?
Well, nice meeting you.
Thank you, Mr. Wallizer.
Well, I can show you a few things if you're